A stranger is going to spend somewhere between 15 and 30 minutes with you. They have never met you, they will not treat you, and what they write down in that half hour will outweigh almost everything else you have submitted about your body. That appointment is your compensation and pension exam. Most veterans walk in thinking it is a doctor's appointment. It is not, and that misunderstanding is what costs them. By the end of this video, you will know what the exam actually is, what form the examiner is filling out, and what that form is really measuring. Here is where the misunderstanding starts. 38 CFR 3.159 says that when the evidence of record is insufficient to decide a claim, the VA will provide a medical examination. Read that phrase again. When the evidence is insufficient, the exam exists because something is missing. Something in the record has not been answered or documented. So this is not a checkup. It is an evidence-gathering event aimed at a specific gap in the file, conducted by a medical professional working from a specific assignment on a clock. First question everyone asks, do I have to have one? The answer is in 38 CFR 3.326. A VA examination is authorized where there is a need to verify the existence or severity of a disability. Need. If the VA does not need it to decide, it is not required. And when the file already holds enough evidence, the VA can use its acceptable clinical evidence process and simply review the records instead. So yes, a claim can be decided without an exam, but be careful with that fact, because a version of it is being sold to you. The pitch says, build your evidence right and skip the exam. In practice, for a first-time service connection claim, the VA almost always needs to verify existence and severity, so it orders one. The exam is not a punishment for a weak claim. It is the default, and one thing worth knowing before you walk in, because it changes how the whole thing reads. 38 U.S.C. 1155 is the law behind the rating schedule, and it says there shall be no reduction in the rate of compensation for individual success in overcoming the handicap of permanent injury. In plain terms, handling it well does not lower what you are owed. That was written in 1917, and it is still binding. Most veterans assume they are meeting a VA doctor. Sometimes that is true, often it is not. A large share of these exams are conducted by independent medical professionals working under contract, not there to treat you, not there to manage your care. They have an assignment, evaluate the claimed condition, document the findings, complete the form, and they are already working from the C file before the appointment starts, which means the strength of what is already in the file shapes where the examination begins. Same appointment, same examiner, two different starting lines. And the examiner is neutral, not there to help secure a higher rating, not there to minimize the condition. The only thing they can document is what is actually in front of them. The examiner does not walk in with a blank page. They walk in with a form, and that form is the assignment. It is called a Disability Benefits Questionnaire, a DBQ. Every condition has its own, with a form number like anything else. The knee is VA form 21-0960M-9. There are roughly 70 of them, and that form is not paperwork filed afterward. It is the document being worked through during the examination. The questions asked, the movements measured, the boxes checked. That is the examiner moving through the form. Look at what it asks for. On the knee form, it wants flare-ups, how often they happen, how long they last, what sets them off, and how much function is lost during one. It wants range of motion in degrees, measured with an instrument, because an eyeball estimate is not acceptable. It wants to know whether pain causes functional loss, whether a cane is used, whether the condition affects standing, walking, lifting, or sitting. Every one of those questions traces back to 38 CFR Part 4. The rating criteria need a specific answer to place a veteran on a tier, so the form asks for exactly that answer. Degrees of motion, because degrees set the percentage. Flare-up frequency, because frequency sets the percentage. The form is the rating criteria turned into questions, and most of those forms are public. A handful, including hearing loss and traumatic brain injury, are restricted to VA-trained examiners. The rest can be downloaded and read by anyone in advance. Since functional limitation is what the form captures, it is worth seeing what happens to two different answers to the same question. Answer 1, my knee hurts. Answer 2, my knee limits me to about a block before I have to stop. I cannot take stairs without holding the rail. On bad nights, the pain wakes me, and I do not get back to sleep. Same knee, same veteran, two very different amounts of usable medical information. Here is why they land differently. The first answer establishes that a condition exists. That is all it does. The second describes measurable limitation, and 38 CFR Part 4 rates in tiers built on exactly that. The first gives a rater nothing to place. The second one places you. The same split shows up everywhere. I get migraines. Compared with 2 or 3 times a week, I am lying down in a dark room. I cannot concentrate. I cannot work through it, and I cannot safely drive. One states the condition, the other measures it. The examination measures the condition as it exists now, not at its worst point in service. So the record reflects present tense description and typical days rather than one unusually good one. Secondary effects count too. Sleep loss to pain, fog from medication. Those are the same functional categories the criteria are built around, and the standard underneath all of it is accuracy, not exaggeration. Specific, present tense, complete. An accurate description of an actual life is what the criteria are designed to capture. There is one habit that costs veterans rating points, and it has nothing to do with weak evidence. Doctors call it symptom minimization. In plain terms, it means making it sound better than it is, and it comes from something the military trains on purpose. The military teaches you to keep it together, do not complain, do not fold, drive on. That is real training, and it works. It is not a weakness. It is part of the job, but that same habit shows up in the exam room. I still work. I get by. Others had it worse. Those things are usually true, and they hide what it actually costs to get through the day. And here's the part that decides ratings. Getting through it is not the same as not being hurt by it. You can be managing a condition and still be badly limited by it, but the criteria can only count a limitation that was described. So a limitation you are quietly working around, and a limitation that does not exist can look exactly the same on paper, which is why 38 USC 1155 matters so much here. Handling it well does not lower what you are owed, but the record still has to show the limitation before the criteria can reach it, and why one small answer matters more than it looks. The examiner asks, "How are you doing today?" The trained answer is fine. Fine does not describe a limitation, and it goes into a record built to measure exactly that. The exam ends and the examiner finishes the form. That report goes into the C file and becomes evidence the VA uses to decide the claim. A lot of veterans treat the exam as the finish line. It is not. It is one more piece of evidence, and like any other piece of evidence, it can be pulled and read, which answers a simple question. Does what the examiner wrote match what actually happened in that room? Because the report is evidence, not a decision. The rating comes later, when the VA looks at everything together, and an error found before that decision is issued sits in a very different position than the same error found after. Before we close, we built you a tool for this one. It is called the C&P Exam Prep Sheet. Put in the conditions being examined, and it walks each one through the functional limitation categories the criteria are built around, so nothing gets left out of the record by accident. The link is in the description. It's built, it's waiting, it's yours. Use it. Nothing here is a promise of any particular rating. Every claim is different. What we give you is the cleanest way we know to execute. For Guard and Reserve, women veterans, step-by-step, or benefits news, subscribe to the channel that fits your fight. So the exam is done and the ratings start coming back. Then the math happens, and it is the single most confusing part of this entire process. Two conditions rated 50% each do not add up to 100. Not even close. There is a formula behind it, and almost nobody explains it. Watch that one next. There's gotta be another way, and this is it.